Someone who knew him like said that you could drop Sam Altman into like an island of cannibals and he'd like emerge the leader,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Like I think that's, whatever, like that's a skill. However you use it, hopefully you're using it those powers for good and not for manipulation.
All
Okay,
right, cool.
so this week I'm focusing on what's going on in the storytelling space and how I saw this really interesting article, and Tyler Dink, who's the Beehive CEO, he
Mhm.
wrote an email as well about how the tech industry is investing in like storytellers. So you've got companies, so it's not even tech, it's like Netflix, Mercury, Rippling, Toast.
Yeah,
They're paying like crazy fat salaries for, I mean, we're talking like upwards of like $500,000 for some of these for like
dang.
communications people, for storytellers. And he says like one of the reasons this is happening is because paid acquisition has gotten more expensive. It's risen 2 to 3 times over the last decade. And SEO is also like kind of saturated. It's harder for brands to stand out, to break through. And we got algorithms, like, everyone's fighting the algorithm. It's very pay to play. So
Yeah,
your content has to be good. AI slop seems not to be really cutting it. And I think there's like a backlash now with AI slop. And it was cool 2 years ago to create all your content with AI. Now I don't know. I don't think it's stacking up. And it's interesting to see these tech companies, um, get the memo.
yeah, for sure. No, I agree. Why do you think that backlash happened? Was it because everyone started to figure out when something is AI? Like, what was it?
I think it always I mean, for bigger companies, it's always going to come down like to the money, right? And I think
Yeah, for sure.
content is just getting really competitive. So it's like throw your best writers, the most creative people. You can't, but you also just can't throw like money at it, right? It has to come like from a place that's real.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's,
That's
I
one
guess,
thing.
I think we saw with the Bad Bunny last night, like the Super Bowl halftime performance, there's so
Yeah,
much money in that. Like it's so expensive to produce. But this one really struck a nerve because of the timeliness of it and like
yeah,
the subject matter. And like it was great storytelling, but it's all those elements. It can't just be
yeah,
money and it can't just be like scrappy storytellers like that. So it's good news for me because AI really affected. I mean, the whole reason, like I started Spiral was because I had to pivot and adapt because just copywriting was no longer valuable. And a lot of the agencies that I was working with as a creative began bringing, like, using AI,
yeah.
not investing in copywriters anymore,
The
building
same
GPT
thing.
clients, those kind of
Yeah.
things.
Crazy thing is the same thing happened with engineering. Like
Yeah.
a lot of us got laid off. Like, it's kind of funny because when they showed you the AI future a decade ago, right? It's like, oh, truck drivers and like all of this other thing was going to be like super affected by AI, but it actually flipped and it started from like the knowledge work people, right? The writers, the designers, the engineers. That was the first thing that AI ate. And I think it's kind of funny, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think about now, the more that I really haven't touched vibe coding, it just like hasn't, it's like on my list of things, like Lovable, things like
Yeah.
that. It's interesting, but I keep hearing about, if there's problems with it, if there's bugs, if there's, you know, like I wouldn't know how to fix any of that,
And
right?
now they have to bring back the engineers. Dude, my LinkedIn is slammed with job offers.
Like
But
you
the
have to go
same,
back, you have to go fix their stuff. And I,
yeah,
I like that, I was listening to Meredith Whittaker, the Signal president, like she described this in a way that was like really like it connected for me, or she calls like code and software like a living, breathing organism that's always adapting and changing and like it needs to be reconfigured. And I've surely learned this from building an agent with
yeah,
you, is that
yeah.
it's not set and forget it.
No, you're never done working. And then also too, every time you implement a new feature, unknowingly to you, you're gonna implement new bugs. every single time. Every single time you change something, you're not just changing that one thing. You're changing like multiple other things in the system. If you're very experienced, you will know some of it, but if you're not, you wouldn't even know that a lot of this stuff is happening. You know what I mean? Also, too, it's not just about things breaking. You also have issues with security, right? So a lot of these vibe coded apps are like super easy to hack. They leak data all the time. You know what I mean? They're very like resource inefficient. So they're not good at like reading writes to databases or hitting APIs correctly. You know what I mean? Like you need someone who knows what they're doing to like do these things. This is something I've really been thinking about a lot lately, actually. Like they talk about like AI replacing all of these things, or like said with vibe coding, right? They have vibe everything. They have vibe marketing, vibe design. Like you don't have to know the skill per se to do the thing, but you only get so far. So like AI text everybody, but like if you were already at a 10, it's not like everyone else caught up with you. Now you're at 100. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So it's the same thing with you with copywriting. Yes, I can go prompt ChatGPT for some copy, but you being an actually trained copywriter, when you go and do it, you're going to get a 10x result compared to what I get. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And that's, I think that that's what we're seeing like happening. So, but at the same time, I come from the journalism world and I was like, okay, at the same time, like I see like, um, so tech jobs with the word storyteller like has like doubled, like those listings have doubled in last year. At the same time, though, we're seeing like massive layoffs. I mean, we've been seeing massive layoffs in journalism for like the last decade, but the Washington Post layoff of 300 people, 800-person newsroom. I mean,
Yeah.
that basically like that's an institution that Jeff Bezos gutted. And
Yeah.
so I mean, maybe like some of these reporters can like like get jobs for in like tech being storytellers. Like I
Yeah.
know a lot of them are there to like watchdog. Like that's equally important. And I don't, I think like there was like a lot of hope, and there was like a time where I think the revenue and the numbers were looking like really good, and they were able to turn some things around
Yeah.
in this moment. It's always going to come down to the numbers, but it's also like what is most valued. So, I think I'm seeing more independent journalists. I'm really been impressed with 404 Media.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot of like the way I'm thinking right now about tech, and just their watch, like they're on it. They're really like really have a smart approach, and they really like don't have an agenda. So basically this is a group of Vice reporters, and Vice went bankrupt. And so
I
they started,
know.
and I just got a subscription. It's like $10 a month. I think it's totally worth it because it's
Yeah.
the information's really good. And I was just like, well, that's, I think they also have like private funders. Like I'm not really sure, but it's cool to see more independent voices emerging. Like I'm kind of like, yeah, like let these institutions crumble, like if they need
Yes.
to. But at the same time, it is very expensive to do really good journalism, like the public records request, legal stuff that you have to navigate. It's not just about like throwing things up on a website. Like I think
For
people
sure.
forget there's the time, there's travel, there's, sending people to places in the world where like the only way you can access information is by going there.
Yeah.
Public information requests, those kind of things. So I think that's where like the question is, like we thought, there was this idea Jeff Bezos was going to like save the journalism industry because he had a lot of money, and he
For why?
wanted to do it. Like he was like, this is like coming from more of like an active, if you go back, the way he was talking about this being part of his legacy, it didn't really seem like he was like, yeah, I'm buying the Washington Post because I'm going to turn it around and make it like it an Amazon like kind of
No, no.
business. So it's like, okay, what happened there,
Yeah. So here's the deal. A couple things, right? So first off, I love Vice. Vice like set the tone of cool, like when I was a teenager growing up. And
Yeah.
then the thing about it that was so fire is that it was free. So like you just walk into like cool sneaker stores or like art galleries and they'll just have like stacks of Vice magazine and they were just free to take. So it was like completely ad supported. But even the ads would be like content. That was my first time seeing like ads as content. You know what I mean? And I think they did have like an internal ads agency at Vice as well at some point. So that's super cool that there was a bunch of Vice people. One big thing about AI and about like all of these layoffs that I don't think a lot of people are seeing is that AI, people are thinking about jobs, but what about independence? You get what I'm saying? So now with AI, a single person or a small team can do what used to take an institution hundreds of millions of dollars and hundreds of employees to do. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I do think that a lot of those people who got fired from those journalism jobs shouldn't necessarily try to go find another job. They should do what 404 Media did. Let's band together and create our own independent, right, news because we lack independent news a lot of days. You know what I mean? Like most big news is just propaganda machines. You know what I mean? So we need more like independent journalists. And this is kind of like, I think this might be a sign to them to like do something bigger than just go work another job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's one thing.
Unless they want one of those
Yeah.
high paying big tech jobs as a
Yeah.
storyteller.
200K to tell stories is crazy. That's insane. That's insane money.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
there's like, the Wall Street Journal like announced, I think it was like a month ago, that they were investing in like an AI platform to help reporters with like transcribing interviews and doing research, things like that. And I haven't seen anything
Whoa.
like made, I don't know if they've made cuts to their newsroom. I mean, I think it was just deployed like 3 weeks ago. But people seem to be like really excited about how that was going to support reporters. So it may be like something where, AI can really assist really good reporting without replacing it. If that, I think that
Yeah.
business work, or even for like small independent, like now you don't have to have a whole newsroom, but like you do need humans steering the ship and like not just
Yeah.
regurgitating information that's already out there, and like actually like asking the right questions. And there's so much like there's really not a lot of like real like watchdogging going on with tech. And I think it's got to happen because it's got to balance. Like there's so much hype around it. And, these companies like have their own agenda. I mean, I like Anthropic and I like the way that they're communicating. I mean, even OpenAI has been like very, very good about, well, it was more transparent at first, but like putting the message out, but they really control a lot of the messaging because they have billions of dollars behind it, So
I'll say one thing about OpenAI though, because you just hit on something, and I'll be even more specific. I won't even say OpenAI. I'm going to say Sam Altman. So I'm not sure if you've ever seen his interviews, but this guy has to be probably the most media trained person I've ever seen in my life. He is so good at not answering and redirecting things that it's insane. I saw one interview with him where there was a bunch of reporters asking him a bunch of questions. I'm not sure if he was going to like Davos or I forgot what it was. It was like one of those things. And I saw this guy talk for 15 minutes and he didn't say anything. He said a lot of words, but he gave them like no answers to anything that they asked, you know? But I think he's a really great communicator. Like, so yeah, I agree with you. I really like
the
Anthropic too.
Karen, I think it's How, and who wrote the book The Empire of AI. She writes about that, about him. And like he has a very calm demeanor, no matter like it's very like you don't really see him being triggered. Like even gosh, when Tucker Carlson was asking him, like about the death of one of his workers who like mysteriously
Yeah,
died, whistleblower, and you could tell that he just like turned it. He's like, well, "What are you trying to say here?" He just like
yeah,
turned.
yeah,
But and like they were saying, like someone who knew him like said that you could drop Sam Altman into like an island of cannibals, and he'd like emerge the leader,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Like I think that's whatever, like that's a skill. However you use it, hopefully you're using those powers for good and not for manipulation. But
yeah.
I did want to bring up because the Super Bowl, the Anthropic ads, kind of hitting back. Like when I watched Anthropic ads that like directly were making fun of Chat GPT, and it was like the thing was is very relatable. It was
Yeah.
relatable because of the responses that the like person who was pretending to be chat, like the way they were delivering. And I know that so many people who have frustration, especially in the is it the 5.2 model?
Yeah, five in general.
Yeah, like it's so patronizing. The way that it was like answering the questions first before even introducing the ads was very relatable. And then just dropping in like, the like the guy who was like, coming to Chat GPT to be like a therapist because he wanted to connect more with his mom, who he had a difficult relationship with. And she's giving
Yeah.
like, oh, you can find like, common points of interest. Or you can, and then she breaks into like advertising voice and is like, or you can go on this dating website to find cougars. And it was like,
Yeah.
it was like, I think it just highlighted the world that we're potentially walking into with LLMs like having advertising. I don't care if it's in the box. I don't care if it's not in the chat box. Like it's still creepy. It's still creepy to think about how much access they can have and that like every platform we get on, whether it's Meta, like it just becomes like you just get bombarded with algorithms and ads, and it's been nice to have a place to go like do research and ask questions without some other kind of interference coming through. So like whether Anthropic like keeps that keeps their platform ad free. Sam Altman was mad about it because he's like, this is this mischaracterized us, like we're not, it's not going to be like that, we're not putting the ads like in the chat, but it's going to feel like it, I think. And it already does on Facebook. I think a lot of people have left Facebook because they're just like every time I even talk about something, my whole feed becomes an ad. And maybe I talked about a friend who was looking for like new bed sheets, or I Googled it, or now I'm getting all these ads I don't actually want or need.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was wondering like what you think about that and why is Anthropic kind of, do you think they're pulling ahead, and why are they able to take a different approach and not, because OpenAI is just like resorting to advertisement. They said they weren't going to do it. It was a method of last resort. Now Sam Altman's like, we got to do this. So I'm wondering, yeah, what you see is the
Okay.
advantage that Anthropic has.
So first of all, the thing you said about Sam, him saying that we would never do ads, or if we do it, it's a method of last resort, it's because they're at their last resort, right? OpenAI is getting like pummeled, dude. Anthropic is like crushing it with AI coding, things of that nature, right? Google has like very much caught up in terms of search with AI. You know what I mean? Gemini, a lot of people think Gemini is just way better than anything that anyone has, from general purpose to image generation, etc. Like they have a hard time getting funding. We talked about like this kind of like this kind of like funding circle that the AI companies have, right? Where like, I don't know, like NVIDIA will invest money into OpenAI. Then like, I don't know, Oracle will invest
Called
money.
it a circle
But
jerk.
but in order for you to get the money, you have to spend it on our stuff. So I'm NVIDIA, I'll give you $100 million, but you have to spend most of that on my new Blackwell chips, right? Same thing with Oracle. Like I'll give you money, but like you have to come use our data services or our databases. You get what I'm starting to say?
Yeah.
So like that's happening. They're not really making money. I forgot how much money they're burning, but they're burning like billions of dollars every month, every quarter, whatever that is, right? They can't just keep raising all of this funding from Microsoft, from like the Saudi Arabia, I don't know, sovereign wealth fund. They can't keep doing that. At some point, the valuation has to match with the revenue that the company is generating. And it's just not adding up right now. Does that make sense? So they have to get their revenue up. And the only options they really have, charge more for the product, right? Or create a cheaper tier that more people can sign up for. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but they have Chat GPT Go now, which is around $8, and they release it in India, Colombia, yeah, Mexico. And I think just last week they just rolled it out to everyone because they need more people to pay for it. You know what I mean? And you can only get so many people to pay $20 or $15 or whatever for a subscription, right? And ads make a shit ton of money. Like this is why Google is so profitable. They make a ridiculous sum of money from ads. The same thing with Meta. You make tons of money. Meta makes so much money off ads that Zuckerberg can just blow billions of dollars on the metaverse or whatever new shiny thing exists without batting an eye. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah,
don't.
and that's like not enabling Meta like to be able to like don't would you say Meta's like winning like the infrastructure race right now? And the like they're able to have like a bigger, would you call it like a burn rate? Like they can lose money for
They can
longer.
burn money infinitely. The same thing with Google. They can, all of them can just burn money until OpenAI goes out of business or sells to one of them. Like you can't compete with ad money. So he kind of has no choice but to turn on ads. That's going to be like a crazy money printer for OpenAI, especially if they're able to do it right. You know what I mean? Dude, they can charge crazy sums of money.
But if users have the choice, like if everyone if every LLM's doing ads, like you don't have a choice. But like I think the Anthropic ads were really like differentiating. Like it was like a moment they got like the Super Bowl, like they were rolling out those pre-ads like even before they were going viral on the internet, and it was like an opportunity for them to be like, you have a choice. And
For
so
sure.
I'm curious if people like I've even been thinking of canceling my ChatGPT account. I was I was a recent adopter of Claude. I've got all my institutional knowledge over on ChatGPT, but I'm like, I, s- I'm like, should I move over? Like, I think people are thinking about that. And then you also have the, there's a call like as a protest to get off ChatGPT because I think Sam Altman recently like gave a bunch of money to Trump. So people were like, you got to protest ChatGPT,
Yes.
OpenAI by canceling your. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see like if you know they end up being able to make that money and people don't just completely like leave the product. I mean, I don't think they ever
Here's
will because it's a great product.
and that's kind of my thing. You're gonna leave ChatGPT for what? The only real option that people have, right? Or it's like Anthropic, Grok, and what Gemini, right?
Yeah.
And OpenAI arguably has the best product for everyday people, right? I only use Claude because of Claude Code, because of engineering stuff, right? You have certain people who use Grok because they like X, they like Elon, they like that kind of ecosystem.
Yeah. Pro
Grok is,
getting a bad rep right now, especially with
of
women.
course, and that's another thing too. You have these different competitors that offer different things. Like OpenAI is the most user friendly. Anthropic is best, I think, for businesses or like engineers. Grok is great if you want more freedom of speech. You don't want an LLM that censors itself. So some people use Grok, right? And then Gemini has all of Google behind it, right? They're integrating Gemini in all kind of things, and it's doing a lot of stuff that kind of Apple kind of advertised this new Siri doing. You actually get that right now with a lot of Android phones with Gemini. You know what I mean? As well as like all of their image work with Nano Banana and et cetera, right? So it's like you only have three other options. And the thing about protesting, I'm not saying the protest is wrong, but if you're going to protest Sam Altman, you have to protest everyone else because I saw every single last one of them, those tech executives at Trump's like tech dinner that he had. All of them made these deals with Trump, from Jeff Bezos to Google, Oracle, the lady that runs AMD. They all were there. You know what I mean? So if you're going to boycott Sam, you have to boycott all the other big tech companies as well, you know?
Well said. I think that's a good point to leave
Okay.
on. So we have a call to action.